So what's the worst case of inflation ever? Well, that title belongs to the Weimar Republic, a period in German history right after World War I when the German economy collapsed and money became nearly worthless. Let me explain. It all started with the Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended World War I. In the treaty, Germany was ordered to pay for all the damage that they caused, which amounted to around 1.32 billion gold marks, or about $33 billion in today's money. The Germans were given for years to pay back this money, but that was not nearly enough time. To make matters worse, the Allied powers, which were made up of Britain, France, Italy, and Japan, refused to accept anything less than gold for the reparations. And because Germany no longer had any gold after financing a world war, they had only one option: to print more money. Germany began by printing more paper marks, but that didn't work. So then they printed more money, like a lot more money. Between 1919 and 1923, the German government printed over 200 billion marks, which is equivalent to around $60 billion today. All that cash went into the pockets of the German people, who promptly spent it all. And so, the government kept printing more money. By the end of 1922, there were over 4 trillion marks in circulation, which is equal to around $1.2 trillion today. Now, you can see where this is going. All that money had to come from somewhere, and it came from the people who owned gold. For example, before the inflation, if you had 100 marks, you could exchange that for 1 mark of gold. But after the inflation, you needed 4 trillion marks to buy 1 mark of gold. Basically, the value of the mark was 4 trillion, but even that didn't stop them. The Germans kept on printing more money, and by January of 1923, it took 215 trillion marks to buy $1. At this point, the German government realized that something had to be done, because nobody was even carrying around wheelbarrows of money anymore. They were instead carrying around suitcases full of cash for basic goods and services. In fact, the inflation got so out of hand that the German government had to start using emergency currency. These were notes made out of wood pulp rather than paper, and they came in denominations of 100,000, 500,000, and 1 million marks. This might sound crazy, but at the time these notes were extremely popular, because they did and lose value as quickly as paper money. Eventually, the German government replaced the mark with the Rentenmark, a new currency backed by land, forests, mines, and water. The switch was immediate and dramatic. People exchanged their old money for the new currency at a rate of 4.2 trillion marks for 1 Rentenmark. As you can imagine, the effects of the inflation were devastating. People who had saved up their money for retirement saw their life savings wiped out overnight. Industrial production fell by 50%, and foreign investment in Germany dried up. Unemployment skyrocketed to over 6 million people, and the German economy was in sharp decline. Even though the inflation eventually ended, its effects were felt for decades. It contributed to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, and ultimately led to World War II. So what can we learn from this? Well, first off, never trust a government that's run by a bunch of incompetent morons. Secondly, don't go around starting world wars unless you have a really good reason. And third, if you do start a world war, at least have the decency to not blame it all on someone else. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us out. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.